wanted to introduce you to the game of Senet, and this is an Egyptian game from ancient Egypt. Dates from about 5,000 years ago. It's one of the oldest board games. Many people actually consider it to be the oldest board game of all time, although that's hard to prove, but it's very likely that it is. And several of these games were found, board games were found in King Tutankhamun's tomb, buried with him, and it's buried with all people from all aspects of Egyptian society, so not just enjoyed by the pharaohs. Anyway, I just wanted to go over the setup in this video of the game and the rules, and then do another video on some alternative variations to the rules, because most people play by the same rules, but they also have a lot of variations that you'll see. This game's really popular, getting really popular on the internet now, where people can play each other or play the computer on a lot of sites. The popularity of the game really is mostly due to this game appearing featured in an episode of Lost, I think a couple years ago. So people are really interested in it, and backgammon players are sort of interested in the game because it's possible that this game may have been an ancestor to backgammon. It's not for sure, but it's highly possible, and it's close to Parcheesi and some other dice and race games. Okay, so the setup of the board is that there's 30 squares, which is 3 rows of 10 squares, and the pieces are set up on the top row here. The board is positioned to where these the squares with the drawings in them, the hieroglyphics, are toward the bottom right hand corner. And the pieces are set up in an alternating fashion, where one player will play these white pieces, sort of the cone-shaped pieces, and then the player plays these spool, and they're dark green on this board, the spool-shaped pieces, and then you just sort of roll to see who goes first. These are throwing sticks. The lighter side of the stick is the pip, which is the number that means, this would be a 1. This means that there's no pip, so it doesn't count as anything. So if you have 3 facing up, then that's the count of 3. So you can roll, and you just basically, I kind of shuffle them in my hand and then just sort of drop them, and is how we roll. So you can roll, whoever gets the highest number can go first, or you can play it to where whoever is the first to roll a 1 goes first, or you could also put one piece in each hand and shuffle them behind your back, and then have somebody pick and find out who goes first that way. Okay, so the rules are, you throw these, you use the throwing sticks instead of a dice. They have these sticks, and it's very important to make sure you play with the sticks. It's preferable not to play with actual die, because it changes the strategies of the game. It makes it a little easier. It's a lot more complex with these, and we'll go over that later. I'm going to make my third video is going to be about strategy, and strategy is really fun in this game, and it's pretty complex. The game looks very simple, but it's actually pretty complex strategy. So these sticks are really important in your strategy, and the fun of the game makes the game a lot more fun. So you throw the sticks, so this would be a 3, and then the person moves the same number of the however many of the lighter side is showing up. That's how many spaces you move. And you move 1 pawn per turn, 1 piece per turn. You don't divide up the count between multiple pieces. That's a variation of the game, but that's not my preferred way to play, and I'll explain that later in another video. But and then you start with any piece that can make a legal move, and you can't pass a move. As long as you have a legal move to make, you have to make it. And I've never played a game where you can't make a move. Although it's possible that it could happen, but it's very rare. And then the movement of the pawns, they move in an S-shaped pattern, so they move this guy in the back has to move up, and then all of them do. And then when they reach here, then they turn and they come this way, and then they turn and come this way, and then go off the board. And so that's an S-shaped pattern. And if you roll a 1, so that would be a 1. If you roll a 1 or a 4, you get an extra turn. If you roll a 2 or a 3, your turn ends after your move. This would be the roll of a 0, where none of them are up and you would lose your turn. I think this is the best way to play, because remember, those are pips. So when they're all no pips are showing, then that means there's no pips to move. And it also makes, I like it because it makes the number of good rolls and bad rolls as far as extra turns go, it makes it even. And then later on, while I'm explaining the strategy, I'll explain why they chose those numbers 1 and 4. Why are 1 and 4 extra turns and 2 and 3 not extra turns? And there's an actual mechanical reason of why. It has to do with odds. Anyway, so the next rule is you can't land on a space occupied by your own piece. So if you roll a 2 to start, the guy playing the cones, he can't go up there and land on there. Some dice and race games like backgammon and Parcheesi, you can land on the same space, but in Ludo and the roll game of and this one, they can't share spaces. But if you land, you can land on an opponent's piece, and then you switch places with it. So if he rolled a 1, then he can go here and he switches places with it. If he rolls a 3, 1, 2, 3, then he lands there, and this guy has to move back because again they switch places. So that's how capturing is made. And then 2 pieces of the same color next to each other, like this guy's down over here, and then 1, 2, he rolls a 3, and now 2 are next to each other in 2 consecutive squares. Then they form a blockade, and they cannot be captured. So if he rolls a 2, he can't capture him, and if he rolls a 3, he can't capture him. So he'd have to make another move. Let's see. So these would be protected as long as they're like that. As soon as it's open and breaks up like that, then they can be caught. They can be captured. And then if you can't make a legal move, let's say this guy can't make a legal move. He has to, means he can't move forward. He has to switch places with the piece that's closest behind him, whether it's defended or not. So, and then the next rule number 7, is that all pieces have to land on the house of happiness by an exact roll before continuing any further. So this is a good point to explain what these markings mean here. Actually, we'll start with this one. This is the house of happiness. This is sort of what they call the funeral house. That sounds kind of maybe odd to us in the Western world, but to the ancient Egyptians, going to the afterlife was a good thing, and so that's why it's happiness to go to the funeral home. Then you decide your fate, as you continue on. So you have to land on this square by an exact roll. So he has to, if he wants to, he can't go any further without landing here first. He can't go to this square without landing here. And it has to be an exact roll. He has to roll a 2, and then he has to wait his next turn, and then he can keep going forward. Let's see. And then this square is the house of the waters. That's where those squiggly lines means waters. So when your piece lands on there, either by rolling a 1 from the house of happiness. You get there by rolling a 1, or by being captured on these 3 squares. So if he's here and this this guy's here and he rolls a 2, he moves back. The captured piece doesn't switch places with him here as the rest of the board. He has to go to here because you don't want to land on that square, and this is the reason why. Any piece that lands on here, it has to either move to the House of Rebirth, which is here. The middle square is the House of Rebirth. It either has to move there, and your turn would end, or you try and roll a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exit the board. You have to exit the board on an exact roll. So that's the situation that you're faced with. If you don't roll the 4, if you say, okay, I'm going to try and roll a 4, then and you fail, then your turn is over, and you don't move any pieces, and none of them are defended on your opponent's next turn, even if they're in a blockade, even if they're in a safety, and all your pieces become available for capture. So it's sort of a punishment. So you don't want to, this square you don't really want to end up on. That's the only square like that. Let's see. Now, if this House of Rebirth is already occupied by another player's piece, then you just switch places with the closest open space. You don't switch place. You go to the nearest open space behind it. So, when he's here and he's like, okay, I don't want to try and roll a 4. I want to go back here, but there's somebody there. It has to be, then he'd have to move there. So that's all that rule's saying. Let's see, number 9, from the House of the Spirits. So now we're at the House of the Spirits now, and that's this one here. A 3 must be rolled to exit the board, so you have to roll a 3 to get off the board. And then from the House of the Double, that's what this is called, the House of the Double, a 2 must be rolled to exit the board. So when he's there, he has to roll 2 to exit that piece off the board. And from the House of Horus, that's this unmarked one, it's called the House of Horus. A 1 has to be rolled to exit the board, because with 4 sticks, a 1 isn't as rare. Some versions of the game where they use more sticks, usually you can get off there with any number, because a 1 is harder to roll. The more sticks you have, the more rare it is to roll a 1. With 4 sticks, it's not too bad. So we play to where you have to roll a 1. So if a player can't use this roll, if a player's on one of the exit squares and he can't use a roll to get off the board, then the throw's discarded and the turn's forfeited. He doesn't switch places, given that he doesn't have any other pieces to move, or he can't land here either, or something, and he wouldn't switch places with anybody at that point. He'd be vulnerable to captures. The more you sit up here on these 3 squares and you're missing rolls to get off the board, and your opponent's here, and he captures you, then you're in danger of getting, and that's one of the fun parts of the game. And then the way you win the game is the first player to get all their pieces. There's 5 on each side. To get all their pieces off the board, that player wins the game. And so the next video I'm going to make is going to discuss just a few of the variations to the rules that you can choose to play by. And then the last video I'm going to make on this, the third, is going to be really fun, because I really enjoy the strategy of this game, and it's going to go into the strategies of how to play this game.